Okay, so we're going to do a boats in the bay project today, and you need to go to file, open, and open these three images. Um, when you open more than one image, you'll see in your project bin what images you've opened, right? And you can select them by clicking on them, or you can go up here and click on them as well. But this is just boat, boat 2, boat 3, and boat in a bay. And our objective today is to select these boats and place them in the bay here. Okay, so we're going to start with this boat right here, and if you click on the zoom tool right here, and I am going to hold down my cursor and just rope or box the red boat, and then I'll zoom in nice and tight, just the way we want it. And we're going to learn the quick selection tools today. It's the quick selection tool and then the selection brush tool. And if you click on the quick selection tool, you can change the size or the diameter of the brush right here. And what the quick selection brush does is it is I call it a smart tool. It will automatically select pixels, and it's really just looking for contrasting pixels. So if I hold down my cursor, look at how quickly it selects the boat. Okay, and it's not perfect, but it does a pretty good job, and you can do it pretty quickly. Now, if you go and do something like this, and you have your marching ants outside of the boat, you can hold down Alt, and look at how that changes from minus to plus, and plus to minus, right? So now it's plus, meaning I'm going to add to the selection. If I hit minus, it's going to take it away. So if you go outside the boat, hold down Alt, and then you can deselect, okay, which is kind of nice. Um, Now I'm going to click back on the magnifying zoom tool, and I'm going to rope the handle of the engine right here. And if I try to make the diameter small for the quick selection tool, it kind of gets a little funky like this, right? And so this is where if you hold down your cursor and select the selection brush tool, this one is just simply a brush tool. It won't automatically select pixels. It'll just, if you hold down your cursor, it'll select whatever you brush over. All right, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to change the brush size nice and small, and I'm going to hold down Alt and take away. Remember, Alt takes the selection away, and then I'm going to hold down Alt and deselect that area, and then I can let go of Alt and kind of paint in so that I have the handle selected, and maybe select right here. Remember, you can go and hold down Alt, take this away, and just kind of shave off any area you don't want. Okay, and if I wanted to select the bottom of the boat, increase the brush size, and then just kind of go over it. So those are the two tools. They're very, very useful. They're the quick selection tool and the selection brush tool. Okay. Now, and Alt will deselect. Okay, that's very useful to know. So if I wanted to get this, I can click on the zoom tool, rope it, and then go back to my selection brush tool. That's a little big, so I'm going to go up to my formatting toolbar, make it a little smaller, and then I can kind of brush that in for the selection. Okay. Now, once it is selected, you can click on the magnifying tool and go to fit screen, and you can kind of see that I've selected it. What we're going to do is we want to move this boat into this bay. So I'm going to use my move tool right here, okay? And I'm going to click inside the marching ants, not outside, but inside, and I'm going to just drag it down to this picture right here. And you're like, well, nothing's happening. Well, I still have my cursor or my mouse pressed. If I let go of my mouse or of the button, it'll put it in there. And then just drag it. Now, if you want to make it smaller, you can click on the box, these bounding boxes, and make it smaller. You can click on the side one and flip it if you want. And then you can also, when you're done, when you've positioned it just the way you want it, right, you can rotate it. If you put your cursor just outside like so, you can rotate it as well. Okay, so I'm going to put the boat, maybe make it smaller. Now, if you're following along, go ahead and do that. And then after you do that, look over at your layers palette and you'll see that we've just created a layer. It says layer 1. That layer 1 is the boat that we just put in it. I could turn the eye on and off, right? The great thing about non-destructive editing is that we can use layers, right, and always take them off if we don't want it, right? We never want to make an edit to the background layer, right? So we're starting to learn the style of non-destructive editing, meaning we don't make any edits to the background, right? So that we have the flexibility in our editing down the road, right? Let's say we decide, you know what, we don't want that red boat in our bay. Instead of trying to clone it out or erase it, all we'd have to do is go to this layer and take the eye off, and then boom, we have the red boat out of the picture. Now, once you get very advanced with Photoshop, you're gonna be working with files with lots of different layers, and it's important to stay organized. So we need to rename this layer. So you can either double click on the text or right click and rename. And we're gonna rename this red boat, right? Very, very important. You don't want to just leave a layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, because then if you have 20 layers, it's gonna be hard to decipher what layer is what. Okay. So I'll go ahead and do one more review. What I want you to do is get all these boats in this bay. So I'll do one more example. I'll choose this boat right here, and I'm going to click on my magnifying tool, or you can hit Z, and I'm going to rope it. And I'm not going to worry about this pole right here, but I'm going to use my quick selection brush, and it's kind of small, so I'll make the brush a little bit bigger and just paint this in. Make sure you paint in the windows as well, and you can see that I'm getting some of the water too, but that's alright, because we know that if we hold down Alt, we can shave some of that off. Okay, so hold down Alt, shave some of that off. There we go. And what you can do is you can click on the zoom tool and really zoom in onto this railing right here. And if I make the brush really, really small, we can see if it will automatically select. Well, it selected the water here too, so I'm going to hold down Alt. And you can see that I'm having a little some problems with this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch to my selection brush, and now I can just paint in the rail, and then hold down Alt and shave off the area in which I don't want, right? So it's a fine balance of zooming in, zooming out, and then using the two different brushes, okay? And what you'd want to do is you'd want to zoom in and select these as well. All right, but just for the sake of time, I am going to move it over now. So zoom tool. So after you zoom in and select this railing as well, I want you to click on the zoom tool, and you can do fit on screen, or you can right click fit on screen. That'll zoom out. And we're going to use our move tool right here. Click on the move tool, click inside it, and I want you to drag it in, and you can reposition that wherever you'd like. Okay, and then you're going to hit the OK, and remember layer 1, double click on that, and I'll just put white boat. All right, and we're staying organized with our layers. You can even you can turn the eyes on and off. Right? You can reposition the layers too. Right now it doesn't matter which layers on top because they're not overlapping. Okay, and the last thing that I want to show you guys is how to save it. Okay, if I go to File, Save As, you can just hit OK with that. I'm going to save it into my account. Okay, and I'm just going to go to my Photoshop folder, and then I'm going to save it in as a PSD file. Double click, and I'm going to save it in my PSD folder. To save it as a PSD file, it's just the Photoshop file, right? What that does is it preserves and saves all my layers, right? If I save it as a JPEG, it's going to smush all these layers together and basically rendering our non-destructive editing technique useless. All right. Once you're finished and you've saved a copy of the as a PSD, then you can save it as a JPEG. But what I want you to do is save it as a PSD for now, so that when we go back and edit it in the future, or need to make changes, it's going to be a lot easier since we have our layers intact. So PSD Photoshop file right here. Make sure you save the layers by making sure that's checked. The default will be checked, so you're good. Then you can save it as boat in a bay, and you can see the extension .psd. That means that you're saving it as a Photoshop file and you're preserving all these layers, which is very, very important. And then you can just hit save, and you are good.